Vigilante War, Case 002, Permission to Collect. The concierge slid the final contract through the small window of the bullet-riddled ballistic glass of the Rancor Suites Budget Micro-Economy Hotel. "A signature here shall complete our transaction, Mr. Rainer," the android cooed. Dax Rainer wasn't the reading type, and all the fine print gave him a headache. "What exactly am I granting permission for?" Dax said. "To give Rancor Hotel and Suites permission to collect your personal data." Personal data? Dax didn't know what exactly personal data entailed, but there was one thing he didn't like, and that was giving away something for free. He licked his lips. Certainly he did not want to be a person whose data was for sale on the dark web. "Babe, hurry up. I gotta pee," Harley Sinclair said, while tugging on Dax's leather motorcycle jacket. He kissed her, and she took 4 steps over the checkered black and white marbled floor to gaze through the floor-to-ceiling window with a stunning view of the Gangnam River. With a huge sigh, Dax's energy shifted. He relaxed a bit and smiled. Just moments ago, Harley twirled in her leather skirt and jaguar fur coat when she entered the marbled lobby of the Ambassador Suites Hotel. 5-star ratings. Only 4 murders in the past month. And the food was less than 10% plastic. Dax didn't care about all the fancy adornments. He just wanted a place to get drunk and get laid. But Harley was his sweetheart. Just like the freshly inked tattoo on his shoulder read. Sure, they'd just met 2 hours ago, after he'd hacked an ATM outside a gas station in Shinjuku Station Heights in Japan. But when she jumped the vacuum tube with him to Hong Kong, he knew this girl was the one. They really connected, and he loved risk takers, especially those who took risks for love. Life moved fast, and he didn't want to miss out on it. Hell, she better be the one, Dax thought. I'm running out of ink on my arm. Now, with a virtual wallet full of altar coins, the only thing stopping Dax from consummating his new love affair was the last of several dumb contracts he'd have to sign. Every one of those contracts seemed standard, but for some reason, the one marked "Permission to Collect User Data" gave Dax pause. The AI played Mozart on the grand piano behind him as Dax peeled a few bills out of his wallet and gave them to his girlfriend. He nodded over to the claw machine at the back of the lobby. "Why don't you go and see if you can get a surprise, sweetheart?" Dax drew the .45 Magnum he kept tucked behind his waistband and set it on the counter. The heavy clunk on the marble counter even made the robot give it a second glance. "And what do you need my data for?" he asked. His eyes scanned the face of the machine, searching for a tell, but the damn androids never had any. "User data is collected to provide better services to the customer. We try to make each user's experience unique," he added. Damn emotional reading programs on these blasted machines, Dax thought. It must have read my feelings as nervous. "Unique." "Yes," the machine assured. "The next time you're here, your experience will be much better. You never know. You might be pleasantly surprised." Something about the way the android smiled at him gave Dax the creeps. And it wasn't Dax's normal disdain for androids. He drew back a bit from the counter and sighed. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Dax glanced over at Harley, who was trying her luck over at the claw machine at the other end of the lobby. And while she was busy staring at all the prizes, Dax stared at her achingly long legs. Dax, being an aspiring poet himself, tried to think of a line about fishnet stockings and Harley being a catch. It didn't come to him. He picked a mint off the counter, unwrapped it, and stuffed it into his mouth. The claw machine dropped into the bin a glossy box with a question mark logo. It reminded Dax of the old, worthless mystery boxes he wasted his money on as a kid. That was back when his sister still spoke to him. But maybe that's why he liked Harley. She still had a youthful innocence to her ways. Something Dax would never get back. No, the world had crushed that from him. Harley squealed as a prize dropped into the catch bin. She reached down, opened up the box, and held up her prize. A box full of ice cream-flavored condoms. She bounced up and down. "Look what I won, babe!" Seeing the bulk order condoms, Dax chomped the mint, pivoted back to the counter, and didn't bother reading the rest of the contract, which was still being held in the android concierge's hands. He signed along the dotted line with an X and rushed over to his new girlfriend to congratulate her. They disappeared into the elevator, giggling the entire time. The moment Dax stepped into the 48-square-foot standard single of the micro-budget suites, he was pleasantly surprised. Wanting the occasion to be special, Dax splurged on the room with the view. So he dashed to the window and tore open the curtains, revealing a cosmic galaxy of red neon signs below. Dax hopped on the aquamarine sheets of the Sleep Number smart bed and flipped on the television. Immediately, he was confronted by a dozen pop-ups appearing on the digital display. Do you grant Rancor Hotel and Suites permission to access your photos, videos, messages, phone calls, credit card purchases, tax statements, and social media posts over the last 5 years? Do you grant Rancor Hotel and Suites permission to collect DNA samples and or bodily fluids left on the premises? Ugh, Dax sighed. Agree. In a frenzied blur, he clicked away the rest of those annoying agreements and finally got access to the television. Lord, you need 5011 agreements before you can use anything around here. Next thing you know, they'll be asking for a credit card number just to use the goddamn hairdryer. Attempting to set the mood, Dax tried to find the pay-per-view porn channel with some steamy 2-on-1 action. Or maybe some light android bondage. The easy stuff. Nothing too risque. Harley appeared like a classy girl after all. But as he switched through the channels, Dax stumbled upon a news channel of all things. And that's when he saw the riots breaking out across multiple cities, across the country. On the screen, armored police vehicles and officers in riot gear flooded the streets. Harley, who was taking a leak in the bathroom with the doors open, shouted, "What's that?" "Nothing. Some kind of riot," Dax replied, reading the scrolling captions at the bottom of the screen. And as a masked rioter hurled a Molotov cocktail at a police line in riot gear, said, "They're calling it the Vigilante Wars." Dax wondered if Harley was the type of girl to throw a Molotov. If she wasn't, he could live with it. But he'd always wanted a dame who would be by his side if things went to shit. Probably too classy, Dax whispered to himself. Dax heard the last drops of Harley's urine tinkling into the bowl, then the toilet flushing. She came into the room, seemingly more interested in watching the violence on television than hiking her skirt up. "Oh, my goodness! Is that happening in real life?" Dax cut off the tube and quickly replied, "You know what they say. You never know what to believe when you're watching this box," Dax said. "Besides, don't want to kill the mood now, do we?" "Sure don't." She ripped off her shirt and scooped into bed, her warm body pressed tightly next to his. The blue electric lamp beside the bed crackled. She threw a coin into the side slot, and the bed vibrated in a relaxing massage. With one of his arms draped around Harley's shoulders, Dax suddenly felt like $1,000,000. "The way I see it, me and you are rich, baby girl. We got a backpack full of cash and nothing but the horizon in our way. The way I look at it, this is seed money into a new life." "I like the sound of that." Dax pointed at the television. "There. We're going to the US of A, baby." A glare of confusion crossed her face. Why would you want to go there? Are you kidding me? That's primo catastrophe. Everybody needs water during martial law, don't they? They need bullets. The way I see it, we get to the good old land of the free, buy ourselves a neat little cache of munitions, and then sell it to the highest bidder. We're gonna be arms dealers? Arms dealers, Dax replied. Sure looks horrible, she added, glancing at the screen where a protester lifted another off the ground as the police advanced. That's the thing about people, he offered. They can be both horrible and wonderful, sometimes at the same time. Dax cracked open a bottle of vodka. He must have liked Harley a bunch. Usually, he didn't touch the stuff. He was a whiskey man through and through. This girl, Dax thought, she's my lottery ticket out of this hellhole. 2 mornings later, Dax 1000 tossed the empty box of condoms into the trash and stumbled out of the elevator towing his equally hungover girlfriend behind him. He drew his arm to cover his face as the harsh daylight of the lobby burned his eyes. When he dropped the keycard of room 9200 at the concierge's desk, he didn't bother looking up. That'll be an additional $3,200 of in-room entertainment, including the exotic dancers, amphetamines, and lubricants delivered to your room. Oh, and of course the minibar, which you emptied, I might add. Kudos to you, sir, for your, may I say, enduringly strong liver. As Dax swiped his John Hancock across the page, he muttered over his shoulder to Harley, who was throwing up her guts into the flower pot near the elevators. That's how they get you. Lure you in with a cheap rate, then gouge you on the extras. I'm sorry for your dissatisfaction, the android said. If you upgrade to a Rancor Suites Platinum membership, I can gladly give you additional comp rooms. Dax glared at the complaint card. For once, his desire to set this glorified cashier overpowered his desire to exit the hotel and find the nearest bush to hurl up his free continental breakfast. No, I don't think I will. As soon as Dax stepped out of the hotel doors, with the smog in his face and his girl on his arm, he felt the weird sensation of being watched. A taxicab ambled by on the road. Its many billboards sitting atop its roof flashed a one-time sale of Staymax erectile dysfunction medication. The spokesperson, a greaseball with slicked back hair, called out to Dax. Dax, based on your medical history, you've visited the doctor for erectile dysfunction medication 3 times this year. Are you happy with your current medical provider? Face flushing with embarrassment, Dax felt himself shrinking. How the hell does this dumb cab know my personal business? Dax's eyes darted to Harley, who overheard every word. She rubbed his back reassuringly. It happens to everyone, baby cakes. I got no complaints. Dax shrugged it off. Right. They must have gotten me confused with someone else. They strolled the sidewalk, passing street vendors hawking all kinds of illicit goods. They all seemed to know Dax on a first-name basis. Dax, new rounds for your 45? Dax glared at him crooked. How'd he know I'm packing? Dax spun. Billboards, posters, anything with a digital display swiveled in his direction, following him with their glowing digital faces. They were taunting him. Their faces beamed embarrassing ads, which followed him wherever he went. Honey, your hands are sweaty, Harley said as she let go of his hands. They were sweaty, and it added to his frustration. Dax thought the whole damn thing was a setup, like being on one of those gag comedy shows he'd seen on TV. Dax glanced, searching for the cameras, but nothing seemed to appear.